For you, what do you find happens in your life, in your heart, when you're giving like this?
It's a purpose. So it keeps me going, and it really gives our entire family a purpose in addition to fighting cancer. When you are torn down, you have a choice. You either walk through the fire with everything you have, or you don't. And for me, being able to continue gardening has allowed me to move forward with my life, with purpose and intent and healing in a world that can be so dim and gray. We really have to be the light. We really do.
Hey friend, welcome to the Growing Kindness Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Kitchen, founder of the Growing Kindness Movement. This is a place where we grow together, learning to root our lives in kindness, connection, and community. If you've ever wished the world felt a little softer, a little more neighborly, or if you're craving stories that remind you that goodness still grows, you're in the right place. Together with our guests, we'll share stories of generosity and community, proof that even the smallest acts of kindness, from growing and giving cut flowers to everyday acts of care, can change lives and connect us in powerful ways. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get started. Thank you for being here with us today. It is my absolute honor and privilege to get to introduce today's guest. Her story has deeply touched my heart, and her heart, I know, is going to deeply resonate with yours. And I'm so excited and so honored to introduce you to Alicia Plante today. Alicia, we are just so thrilled to have you here with us. Will you start by introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about who you are?
Sure. I'm so thrilled also to be here. It's an absolute honor. I've been a part of Growing Kindness for a number of years now and just sharing my journey along the way. And I'm looking forward to doing that today. So I'm a mother. I'm in my mid-30s. I live in a small town in Tamworth, New Hampshire. It's a little teeny village, little country fairs, and lots of neighborly love. My daughter just turned 4. I live here with my husband, Marty, and parents live 4 minutes down the street. I was a businesswoman in the lending industry and banking for about a decade. And then I encountered a cancer diagnosis along the way. And I've been giving and a part of Growing Kindness ever since then.
I got to connect with you first through your giving journey, and it's been such a privilege to get to watch that unfold. So was that what first drew you to growing and giving flowers, was when you received that diagnosis, or were flowers a part of your life before that?
So flowers have always been a big part of my life. I grew up growing vegetables and flowers and fruit in the garden since probably before I could walk, snapping green beans on the porch with my grandmother. Gardening has been a part of all of my family's life and many of ours out of necessity in life. And as time went on and, seasons changed, food that you store and grow yourself just wasn't as common, along with growing flowers at home. It was just always something we did and something that grew out of love for our family once it wasn't a necessity any longer. I was always known to my grandmother as her posy picker, and that relationship with my grandmother is where I really developed in growing flowers. She taught me everything I knew, and we just really shared deeply in that connection our entire lives.
So, Alicia, clearly flowers have been an important part of your life from the very beginning. At what point did you start giving flowers as acts of kindness?
Well, besides internally in my family, I would say it was summer of 2020, and in an Instagram scroll, I happened upon Growing Kindness. I don't even think we called it a For You page back in the day. I don't even think we referred to it as that. But happened upon a post about Growing Kindness and thought, with this just as my hobby, I should be sharing this beauty out into the world. I'm not a shy person, obviously, if you couldn't get that. So I said, I'm going to try to just cut and give them and make connection and maybe be that crazy person in the parking lot chasing you, trying to hand you flowers. There were these lovely informational tags that were provided once I joined. growing kindness. And it allowed me to, attach something to my name and maybe make me a little less crazy by saying, I am part of an organization, but you still have doubters out there and you still encounter people that are afraid that there's something tied to being given something for free, monetization of everything. There's always a cost to something. So I found it really difficult to give to people, even with the help of the tax. But I would still be out there, grocery store, Walmart, and you would find people to take some. But again, I have to be honest with you. If somebody tried to give me flowers for free, I'd take them all day. Absolutely.
100%. I think that unexpected kindness is such a rarity anymore. Unexpected kindness that's truly freely given. And because of that, people are a little guarded. And it does take a moment to kind of break through that wall and for people to see, like, no, this is truly, truly for you, purely for the hope that it brings you a little bit of joy and happiness. There are no strings attached. So you are not the only one who has bumped into that. I think just as a society, I think people our walls are up a lot, and such a beautiful way to help bring them down, through flowers.
Absolutely. Spark conversation, make connection. That's what it's all about. That's, in my belief, what we're here for. And not with the intention or purpose of opening doors, but I am a big believer in karma and timing and putting good out. And I think it just truly makes the world a better place. And putting good out instead of bad has to outweigh all of the negativity out there eventually. So,
Absolutely.
We just continue to trudge through, push through. Being a hobby gardener, sometimes it's never enough. And you are one of those people at the garden center perusing plants you don't need. And this is definitely more than a hobby for me. I grew my own flowers for my wedding. I'd done a few events on the side for friends and weddings and whatnot. So to have such surplus of flowers and see them go to waste, after making bouquets was upsetting. So nothing better than to share the beauty that I've grown and my true life's work. People have professions and hobbies, and if those two worlds collide, that's wonderful. And for me, mine was on the side.
I think that's so normalizing, though. I think that there's this really big push right now. I don't know, I have felt it, that to have a hobby just for the sake of it bringing you joy or bringing others joy isn't enough, that it has to be more, that we have to monetize it, that we have to turn it into a profession. And I think there's such an important place for us to have things in our life that we have simply because they bring us joy or they allow us to share joy with other people. And like a flower garden is just such a beautiful example of that.
Yes. Some people choose to go to the gym frequently, have a personal trainer, have a boat. My hobby is gardening. That's my work. I'm like, well, it's my workout. It keeps me healthy, keeps me, it's the emotional levelness that I get from it. And, my own spiritual time as well in the garden. And making memories with your family for me in the garden is invaluable. Always has been. And now that I have a daughter, even more so. Mm-hmm. I'm watching the next generations grow and give. My daughter has absolutely no inhibitions. At 4 years old, she will walk up to people and give them flowers. We did it a few times this summer at a local concert by the river in our cute little town. And then she just clearly understood giving flowers for me was cheering someone up, making their day a gift. So she would see someone upset and say, we should give them flowers, Mom. And we're at the store, I'm like, you're right, we really should. That's so thoughtful.
And she's learned that from your example. Like, what a beautiful thing that you've modeled for her, that she's just picked that up from watching you. What a gift.
It's truly a joy to have a child, but it's extreme responsibility. And I think there's a lot of weight to be put into teaching them things young and expectations that we have, to be respectful, kind humans to each other and not be shy, make that connection. I think those are the strongest children as they become professionals and the adults that run the world, to again, make the connection, not be afraid to speak up for themselves or others, and spread joy and love.
I love that. Well, you've taught her right away that when we see someone who's hurting or who's sad, we can do something. And I think that's such a powerful lesson to gift our children with, is that they feel capable of taking action and not just witnessing and observing and not knowing what to do. So what a beautiful gift you've given her. So she's growing and sharing flowers right alongside of you.
Growing and sharing. So Leah was born in 2021. I believe, looking back, that I had started with the project in summer of 2020. And then we went right into the pandemic. So, again, things were already difficult to give away with the no strings attached feeling. And then the pandemic hits and, we're all unable to see people. And then giving became even harder. Nobody wants to touch the outside of a jar or a vase that you've touched. And how do you navigate trying to give through that? So one of the ways I started trying to give was through seed packs. So inexpensive online, you can get, a large grouping of them. So I would have seeds that I had saved myself from plants I grew and just had the little seed card says, let love grow, and added one of the tags in the back and the instructions on the inside. And I believe this is poppy seeds. So, folks can start them and they now have instructions, or people, who might be renters, might not own a home, might live somewhere where they don't have a garden or proper place to put the seeds. I said, sprinkle it on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Just spread joy and beauty. And, very much so, Mother Nature has a way. And if that flower is meant to bloom, it will. Just throw the seeds out there and see what grows. And being a gardener, we know a lot of times from the compost pile up grows pumpkins, zucchinis. If something's going to grow, it's going to. So, just learning to navigate and change up ways that I give flowers still perpetuates the project. So
absolutely.
Now that we're in the winter, and I'll circle back after this, we've started cuttings over here in the corner, which I'll grab for you. And I will take the plant cuttings and plant them with my daughter in little pots, and we'll give those away in the winter, since we live somewhere where we can't grow in the winter.
That's absolutely beautiful. I love that you've found ways to continue giving even when there aren't flowers in season. So obviously giving it has become a core part of who you are and what you do and how you move through the world. What does it do for you? Obviously, it's creating these open doors and connections in your communities. For you, what do you find happens in your life, in your heart, when you're giving like this?
It's a purpose. So becoming a mom in 2021, obviously, becoming a parent changes your life. So continuing on my journey of giving then and growing with my daughter, giving on the side, it just gave me such joy. I still did it on a smaller scale because I was still working. But unfortunately, in the fall of 2022, just about 2 weeks prior to my daughter's first birthday, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cholangiocarcinoma cancer. I had had a few symptoms for a few months that I ignored as being a young, healthy new mom. And, we do know our bodies. We live in them every day, and it's something not to be ignored. So again, had a perfect singleton healthy pregnancy. And less than a year later, I went to the ER on a Monday morning, and scans quickly revealed a large mass the size of a grapefruit on my liver, along with 2 smaller ones and what is known as innumerable lung tumors. So all lobes of both of my lungs are filled with small tumors. Testing did, of course, show it was cholangiocarcinoma, which is commonly known as bile duct cancer. It's an extremely rare and aggressive cancer with a stark number of the 5-year survival rate of stage 4 is 2%. So at this point in time, I did continue to work for a year, but my main focus was on getting active treatment and being a mom. So that was fall of 2021, but had still gardened all summer. And I think the weekend before, I had been out there cleaning up everything. So yes, cancer, but gardening still for my soul at the same time. Mm-hmm. Being a young mom is already difficult enough. Being an AYA, a young adult with cancer, is extremely difficult. The two things tied together is much more of a burden to carry. But I think that's honestly what gives me the strength is being a mom and having her. And losing a little bit of yourself along the way as a mom and a cancer patient is totally normal. But then I stopped working, and for a very long time, my career was my identity. It was always something I worked towards, being young, working in college. And so then when I didn't have that, I was lost. Mind you, always still had gardening on the side. So the summer after cancer diagnosis, I said, you know what, I'm really going to actively try to grow and give more and more. They give me so much joy. They absolutely will give the cancer patients joy. And being able to walk into a hospital where you're seeking treatment and everyone, it's a family, also a small community hospital. I know everybody. So I'm able to walk in and hand staff and patients and people I've run into flowers. So I no longer had that difficulty of handing them out. There are still people who are a little apprehensive, but the hospital staff let me put up a little teeny cart and people can come and take the flowers as they want. Sometimes it engages conversation if I'm there. Sometimes I hand them out. Sometimes they're just there. And sometimes the staff will just read the room and see a patient who might want flowers isn't taking them, or somebody who needs their day brightened, didn't see the cart, and they will take the time to make sure that they're walking out of there with flowers. It's just beautiful.
The ripples of kindness I can't even, just to picture the interactions and the engagements that are happening in that day, in that hospital, just from your generosity and sharing beauty is really incredible to imagine and consider, like the lives that are being touched. And, you shared a little while ago about believing that we can put, more good into the world. Like when you think about that in terms of just the ripples of kindness that move out from your single act of generosity in that day, it's really beautiful and inspiring.
Thank you. And I have to give absolute kudos and praise to my family, especially my dad and my husband. It's an entire family affair, as it's always been, but they really help to perpetuate this dream for me. It's a dream come true. I always wanted to be a mom, and being that career person, never thought I would have this much time or support to grow such gorgeous gardens at this capacity. And I could not do that without their help. There are times when I'm not the person weeding the garden or cutting the flowers. I might just be sitting making the arrangements. There are times I feel good and I'm out there. It keeps me going. It gives me purpose. And it really gives our entire family a purpose in addition to fighting cancer. I recently had my 3-year cancer anniversary. I'm in active chemotherapy treatment. I just had my 80th chemotherapy. That is the long haul hope, is that you can stay on one regimen for as long as possible. There are other treatments out there available and trials and things that we can try when the time comes. But I am an absolute unicorn. I am a living miracle. I did not think I would be here. And to have received so much chemotherapy of the same regimen is very uncommon for people. So I am also extremely lucky that has held me this stable for this long. I'm not going to downplay my fight. There are days that are not great, but there are times that are absolutely wonderful. And that is part of the journey. And a lot of that comes from growing kindness for me. So it truly has given me purpose in a time when I was extremely lost. And again, not just me, but my family purpose. And like you said, the ripples into the community. It's just beautiful. I'm literally known as that crazy flower lady. People will be like, oh, you're the one. Oh, that's the one. I hear stories from doctors and they're like, hey, I can't tell you about HIPAA, but there's a lady who said to tell you, what gorgeous flowers and how much they appreciated it. So even if I'm not at the hospital, I'm getting these stories from them. And also changing the perspective of patients, doctors, staff. If there's extra flowers, they take them home. People are like, oh, dahlias are my favorite. I'm like, well, then take them home with you. So it's so important. And in a world that can be so dim and gray, we really have to be the light. We really do.
There really is. I think it goes to show that there really is no such thing as a small act of kindness. It may have taken us less effort. There's things that we can do that are so simple and small or seemingly small, but the impact is never small. It's incredible to hear just the response that people have when you hold out beauty and generosity that way. When you were sharing, I couldn't help but think of a quote, and I apologize, I don't remember who said it, but it was that when you don't know what to do for yourself, do for others.
So beautiful.
And that just, to me, rings so true through your story, that in feeling just all of the upheaval of your diagnosis, of leaving your career, of being in this, the new days of being a mom, that instead of withdrawing, you moved forward and into the community and did something for others. And in return, it's given you so much joy and been such an anchor in your life. And that for me has been very much my experience. It's why Growing Kindness, the movement exists, is because that was what was happening in my life, but in a very small and very different way. And so to hear that you found that kind of joy through giving, and that being able to grow and give flowers has given you an anchor through this season, it's just an incredible reminder of how powerful such a simple thing is.
It really is. And I'm so touched and honored. And it was just meant to be, that you created this organization, and it ties a name to so many of us people who are really crazy flower people at the end of the day. And it really does give just so much purpose, and it gives a little bit more direction. And I think it really brings it out in people. It's again, it is an organization, and through that, we are a more organized group of people, and it allows others to give through it. One way is people will bring me bottles. Oh, hey, I have a box of jars and, antique bottles in the basement. Can I bring those to you? Of course. And I'll say, please know, these went to the oncology department, and you're perpetuating giving in the world. And so for people who feel that they don't have a way, they are. And I really try to take the time to remind them that they're helping me with that.
That's so beautiful. And it's just a reminder again that once a ripple of kindness is set forth in the world, we really don't know how far it's going to go or who it's going to touch. And so you taking action in your way, in your community, has inspired others to move in kindness and generosity also, which is just so beautiful.
I do have a couple things prepared to share. Like show and tell.
I love it. I'm here for it.
One of the ways that other people have given tied to growing kindness. So there was a young couple, very unfortunate that the husband, they had just gotten married. They're a little bit younger than me. The husband had been diagnosed with cancer this summer. Loveliest couple. Had so much joy that came from sitting with them and talking. And here we are receiving cancer treatments. And the worst circumstances bring out the best connection. And a lot of that rings true with having cancer and groups with cancer also. I have the best people in my life that share a diagnosis. I'm much like you. I've never met them in person. So one thing sharing. So this lovely young couple, the wife started bringing in river rocks from their house and painting them and then decorating them and writing sayings on them to spread joy and happiness, and put them on the stand with the flowers that I had to give away at the hospital. So this one says, happiness held is the seed, happiness shared is the flower. And just so beautiful. And they all had little inspirational quotes or things like that. And just, she thought of a way, in an inexpensive way, that she could spread joy and love. And, somebody not cutting flowers, she did these rocks. And it goes along with putting them, mine's in my kitchen, but I can put them in the garden.
Yeah.
So it ties in with growing kindness, and it wasn't something that she necessarily had to grow. So finding that way to give is important in your own way, however that is. Opening the door, sparking conversation, helping bag groceries for somebody. If, an elderly person in line in front of you and staff is busy, then you're helping a whole group of people, a whole host. Just be better and do better.
Yeah, there's opportunities before us every day if we're just willing to see them and then be willing. There's a certain element of courage, I think, involved with reaching out and being kind, which seems funny because I don't think we maybe necessarily always pair courage and kindness together. But it does take a willingness to step out of our comfort zone and to reach out and make that initial contact or give or offer, whatever it is. But I love your reminder to us all is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be whatever is within our reach and our ability. I share this quote all the time with our team. They're probably already laughing and smiling as they hear me say this because they're not going to know exactly what I'm going to say. But Arthur Ashe, the quote is, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. And I think that's just such a beautiful reminder to us all through the garden rocks, through your flowers, through those who are sharing by giving bases, that really, truly, if we trust that what we have to give will be enough, we give in ways that really have an impact. And so it's just trusting in what we have to give and being brave enough to reach out with it. I think that's the hard part in the beginning.
Absolutely. Just taking that jump, like you said, and putting yourself out there is extremely difficult for people. And to be honest, there are times when I'm not, in the mood to make the connection. I'm, especially at treatment, not feeling well. And it sometimes just still pull me out of that funk. And I still have that conversation. But, again, leaving the door propped open, even if you're not putting yourself out there 100%, just make the world a better place. Pick up a loose piece of trash, all of those things.
Absolutely. No such thing as a small act of kindness.
There is not. So community is extremely important to me, has always been. My daughter is a 6th generation resident of our town. Having history somewhere, having roots, extremely important to me. As I dived deeper into a cancer diagnosis, you really see how big your village and community can be. And I'm so blessed. And I really take pride in living in an area where I can drive down the street, and if I need help, I know 5 people are going to drive by in 5 minutes and help me. And it could be my uncle, it could be, a family friend, could be my dad. So it's just a wonderful place to be. And I want to be able to give back to my community. So I do focus my giving on where I live, but we have gone on vacations to the coast of Maine, which is very short distance from where we live, and brought flowers with us and, given them out in the drive-through at the coffee place and donut shop. At the beach, I don't have any right now, but, I have them, the vials for individual stems to give away.
Oh,
so instead
fun.
of giving a large vase, a glass, can't bring that to the beach, we'll do the individual stems. And that's another great way to give. I think a lot of people are sometimes apprehensive because they don't want to carry a vase around. So great option as a way to give as a single stem. And one of the flowers that makes the most gorgeous cut flower for a single stem is the dahlia. So that's been the end of the season here, has been giving dahlias. We're putting all the gardens to bed now.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to say goodbye to the blooms, especially blooms like dahlias that people have such a strong reaction to. I don't think they're necessarily a flower that everyone's familiar with, and they just have such a striking beauty. It's fun to see people's responses in the realization that you grew that thing and want to gift it to them just in kindness, just so that they can enjoy beauty and feel encouraged in that. So yeah, it's a great flower for that, for sure.
Absolutely. Real showstopper, conversation starter, all of the above. Definitely.
Totally.
So I, again, wanted to just emphasize, bridging the gap with strangers in your life, even if they are your neighbors, building community, and, just being there for other people in any way that you can, and how important that is. And in turn, I have been given so much beauty back in life. And I think, just changing someone's day is the best thing that you can do, and changing their outlook in the world that we live in.
I have no words except for just to agree with you wholeheartedly and just be utterly inspired by your focus on giving and planting seeds of kindness in the world, when it would be so easy in the journey that you're navigating to say, like, I need to focus entirely on taking care of myself, and instead you're choosing to give and to spread kindness and to plant seeds that are going to continue growing for a very, very long time. And I think that there's nothing more beautiful than that. And it's an inspiration to get to hear the way that you have allowed something that could, I don't even have the words, but allowed something that could have been such a dark season to bring so much light into your life and into other people's lives.
When you are torn down, you have a choice. And I try to remember this because I often feel that there is no choice but to fight and go forth. But there is a choice at the end of the day. And when you are torn down, you either walk through the fire with everything you have, or you don't. And for me, being able to continue gardening has allowed me to move forward with my life, with purpose and intent and healing, not only spiritually and mentally, but physically. Gardening, not going to play this, of course, I'm going to sound like my parents here or the news. Gardening is such a healthy way to, low load-bearing exercise and to stay physically fit. And I will never run again. I will never lift weights again. I will never work out in a regular way. But there are modified ways that I'm able to continue gardening, and that it is keeping me healthy. And I do truly believe that. I believe that's one of the reasons I am a unicorn. I am still here. And along with all of the other karma and spiritual things that come along with it, and good feelings that you get, that is such a stress reducer to your body. And I feel that that is such a large contributor to so many of the health consequences that we see today in the world, including cancer in a young person who is seemingly extremely healthy, only on vitamins their entire life. It was actually my first trip to the ER.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
What an absolute shock.
Yes.
That entire diagnosis must have been.
Yes, absolutely. And every day is new, but gardening is consistently there in my life. And the seasons may change and we change along with it. And so many metaphors that go along with gardening. Oh my gosh. But, as we put this season to bed, we're still able to look forward to and plan next season. And before you know it, it's time to start seeds in the basement and dahlia tubers out in the garage. So we have a big annual garden. I start everything from seeds, and I want to say first week of April. I always do more each year when I say I'm not going to. And every year my family, my team gripes that it's more, but it is what it is. So, doing all of the inventory lists, seeing what I have right now keeps me going for this season, and being able to propagate plants, like I said, and do seed packets gives me something to do for the winter to give away. And of course, I'm still involving my daughter in all of this so she can give, which is the best. And then, in the spring, we start them again, and we'll be right back into growing and giving.
It's absolutely beautiful. And it's absolutely such an important reminder to us all that when we go out to nurture a garden, it actually nurtures us in return. So if someone was listening today who's never grown a garden, obviously, anyone can move in the world and spread kindness in any way. But if they were listening and feeling inspired to grow a flower garden for the first time, to be able to have flowers to give in their community, What would be your advice to someone? Like, what's the one takeaway that you wish that someone would have told you when you were first starting out?
I would start with two old wives' tale quotes. One being that there is no such thing as a green thumb. Everyone can have a green thumb. That one's a misconception. Everyone can have a green thumb. And the reason I believe that is because another old wives' tale quote, Mother Nature has a way. Mother Nature always will find a way if the plant was meant to be. So go easy on yourself. Just like with growing kindness, just put yourself out there and start a couple seeds. Doing research online, start with something easy. Try to start small. Try to start with an annual versus a perennial if you don't have the space. And just go ahead and start. And if it doesn't come up, try to plant a couple more seeds. We all have failures in life. And I've had to restart seeds numerous times. Even the old pros this summer said, oh my gosh, they've never had a season so tough on their dahlias. Mm-hmm. I've been growing dahlias for years, and I joined a Facebook group for growing dahlias because I was just beside myself at their condition. So just know that it's okay if it doesn't come up, and just keep trying again.
I love that. That's beautiful wisdom. Alicia, it has been an absolute inspiration. I feel so encouraged by getting to hear your story today. I think it is powerful evidence that when we move in kindness, not only do we impact the life of the giver and the receiver, but there's this beautiful experience, a ripple effect. And whenever anybody gets to witness or hear those acts of kindness, it touches our hearts and moves us as well. And I am so thankful for you being here today to share your story and the power of your story. And I know that it is going to continue to ripple out in the world and uplift and encourage people and hopefully inspire them to do even one small thing in kindness. I know that everyone here listening today would love to know more of how they can hear more of your story and connect with more of your journey. Can you share with us how we can do that?
Absolutely. It's an incredible honor, first of all, to be a part of the podcast and growing kindness. I am so grateful that you took the leap for so many of us to follow behind. And it just took that one little action, which huge action, really, an undertaking every day of your life. But it's so, so, so appreciated to have an organization to tie my name to that is making such a difference. I'm so grateful. And through that, the universe has opened so many doors for me in ways to give action, emphasis, and making connection with just wonderful human beings. One of the ways that you can read my story is through a book that recently was released, and it's from a fellow Grown with Kindness grower named Kelly. Just an incredible honor to be included by her and thought of to be in her book. And just sharing my story helps perpetuate and bring awareness to young women with cancer, which is, frequently something that goes under the radar, and as well, cholangiocarcinoma. Just being able to put your message out there increases awareness for everybody. We want everyone to take care of themselves. And also at the end of the day, funding. The more research that we have, the more cures that we have, the more options, the longer everyone gets to be here. And that is the goal. So one of the ways, again, is reading my story in Kelly's book. I'm also soon going to be featured in a podcast for The Patient Story. You can check them out on Instagram. And they share stories of cancer patients from all around the globe, all walks of life, all types of cancer. And also you can find me as Queen Plante, Plante, on Instagram. That just so happens to be my married last name. I really snagged him once I met him. It was too perfect. Again, the karma brought his last name to me, and the universe brought it to me. So
I love it.
It was meant to be. Yeah.
It really was.
Yes.
Alicia, I am so looking forward to continuing following along with your story. It is an encouragement to me every day. I am so grateful that you took the time to be here and to share your story with us. Like we talked about, it takes a leap of courage and vulnerability to be able to step out and do those things. So thank you for stepping into that place with us here today. As we close today, I would love to hear from you. What's one small thing that someone once did for you, an act of kindness, maybe small, maybe big, that still stays in your heart today?
I think for me, it's extremely difficult because, again, I've spoken to how large my community and my base is. And in having cancer, I am so incredibly supported by organizations, locals, my community, my family, my friends, just so incredibly supported in all ways. But there's somebody who was a friend in life, wasn't a very close friend, but, we stayed in contact over the years a little bit. He had a baby around the same time, or his wife, excuse me, and he had a baby around the same time that I did. And upon finding out my diagnosis, sent me a message and said, "Hey, I'm having these meals shipped to your house." And it was within the first couple weeks. And just that he took the time and, funds to do that. And it wasn't somebody I had really stayed in contact with. And so many meals were sent, of course, but this one specific person, I just never would have guessed it. And that he took the time, and knowing, that our circumstances were similar, and he sympathized with how hard it was being a new parent. I know I think it spoke to him in a different way, and not really just his support floored me. It was just somebody I really wouldn't have expected it from. So I think, a part of the message in growing and giving and stepping out of your boundaries is also to give people grace. And, sometimes the least expected people are the most generous and kind-hearted. So just because sometimes people seem closed off, those are sometimes the people that are the first to step up to the plate. So yeah, that's one that really sticks out to me, but it's a horrible question to ask somebody like me who feels so supported in my community. But there are numerous, endless stories like that for me. And I'm truly blessed.
I think it's just a beautiful reminder. You are moving through the world with a keen awareness of the power of kindness. And so you have collected so many stories of impact in your life because of your sensitivity to the power of kindness. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for being here and sharing today, but more than that, for being you and for moving through the world with the kindness that you spread.
Thank you. We all want our stories shared in life. We don't want to be forgotten. We want to leave a little bit of a legacy. We want to be remembered. And thank you for saying that in that way, because truly what I want to be remembered for is spreading joy and kindness and changing people's perspectives. I want people to start living for today and, like you said, being aware. And I'm okay with being that example if that was my calling.
Oh my goodness. How do you respond except for to say thank you?
I wrote a Facebook post at one point in time. It said, I have broad shoulders. And if this is the weight that I have to bear, then it is. And I'm truly like the luckiest unlucky person. I really am. And that's how I feel all the time. I'm living proof that you can still live your dreams. And it might be in a modified way, but I'm living my dreams. I'm living my best life every day. And that is so important. And so if I can give along the way, that's just wonderful. I love that. I love that for me. Love that life. I'm really lucky. And I also know that it is time consuming, and I would not be able to give this way if I didn't have cancer. Mm-hmm. It's my purpose because I now have more time to do that, and it's something that I can do.
Alicia, you're an absolute inspiration. I mean, personally for me, thank you for choosing to live the way that you are living. I mean, I've been following along with your story for many years now, and I will be honest, I have never told anybody like publicly this. I took 2 weeks off in June and walked away from everything with the intention that I was going to quit. Like it's a lot.
I can't imagine.
And yet, when I get to hear your story, and when I would see like your Facebook post, it would be, or Instagram, whatever world we're living in. It was a reminder to me over and over again that the little things that we do really do have power and they really do matter. And so I just want to say, for me personally, thank you for encouraging me through your story to keep going. It means so much.
Being vulnerable gives me strength personally.
Mm-hmm.
I wear my heart on my sleeve. I cannot internalize anything because I just can't deal. And I think 3 years on with cancer has desensitized me to a lot in life.
I can imagine. Yeah.
But I think the people who are just honest and raw and vocalize things are just, you have such strength. You really do. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this because, again, for me, it's one of those things where, like, I'm lazy sometimes and I just can't get my shit together sometimes, before cancer or not. And that's everybody. And so,
oh, right, 100%.
Being, allowing yourself to be like that also is a strength. And I really had to develop that because that was not something, I was never like that. And I really had to learn how to give myself grace. I expected a lot of myself and couldn't do it. And I think that's half of my battle. It's my biggest, it's all these patterns and the same things over and over. My biggest strengths are my biggest weaknesses, and they always have
100%.
been and they always will be.
Yep. I think that's true for all of us, right?
Oh my God. And so getting out of my own way and like giving myself grace are really hard. And I'm also really hard on my husband. And it's because I'm externalizing all of my stuff onto him and my frustration with maybe myself onto him. And it's really hard. It's hard, but and then I'm like, I also don't know if that's also just where we are in life because I think it's hard for everybody. So I always try to take the cancer identity out of it because these are things that everybody goes through.
100%. I will say, as like my husband and I will have our 25th wedding anniversary next year, which is wild. Do the math. We got married really young. But the season that we went through that was the hardest was when our kids were really little. And we were, I would say like 7 years, like 7 to 10, 7 to 12 were they just, and that's just with that's not with having to navigate a cancer diagnosis. Like marriage was hard in those years. Everything's hard. Like, it's just, there's seasons, but I just love your perspective, to just look for the good in it and be vulnerable enough to say like, this is real. Like this is what it is right now.
Yeah, totally. One of the things that we talked about was like, it's just sometimes not an option. And so you did the right thing by taking a break and in your heart saying, when I know you and you give everything your all, and we all sometimes need a break and have to have grace with ourselves so that we can continue showing up. I'm a firm believer in that now.
100%.
Protecting your peace, all of it.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of women in our organization who are pretty hard on themselves. I think we all, because we want to do the most with what we have. Like whether that's career, whether that's in our families, whether that's in giving in our friendships and our communities. And so we have high expectations of ourselves. And so it's like, how do we honor that, but also truly recognize that it's okay to just show up messy? Like that's the whole point, is to show up messy, And
I love that word that you used, accountability, because I honestly sometimes need that now. Always been a go-getter, but I do find myself withdrawn sometimes, even though I am still out there giving. And I would go months without posting, and everyone would be like, is Alicia alive? And I know, I'm sure they told you. And it was a hard summer emotionally, I think, but we were living our best life. And my daughter is 4 going on 14. I swear she's like 3 kids. They say God only gives you what you can handle. I think maybe we were only supposed to have 1 kid. She is demanding, center of attention, so much fun. She would come home every day and say, what are we doing? Like, just so used to adventuring and going and doing things that like being home, she was like, okay, well, like, are we going to the boat? Are we going to the beach? Are we going to the lake? Well, what are we doing? And we're not doing something. And I'd be like, okay, well, we're doing, so we lived our best life and I'm super proud of myself.
Good
but
for
at
you.
the same time, I also did not do the things I wanted to do and was not active in the group the way I wanted to be. And not just this group, but my other cancer groups.
Yeah.
And didn't post online the way I wanted and would move things off my to-do list every day and just not do them.
I say good for you because like you said, you lived your best summer yet. Like sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to be so many things for so many people. And yet we actually, I think it's an interesting dynamic because it's like that you can't pour from an empty cup. And yet at the same time, there is that dimension of like pouring fills us up. Like, giving does bring joy to us. But that sense of pressure of like, well, I've got to do, you were giving beautifully, like all summer.
Yes.
And yet like, well, I've got to document, I've got to share it. I've got to encourage other, I think sometimes we make it harder than it has to be.
I also need to be held accountable a little. Like I also need something
there is that for all of us.
to tie me in to bring me out so I'm not withdrawn.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be willing to accept that like everything's not just going to be this constant cycle of thriving and growing. Like there's going to be a time where we have to release things. And then you go through the reflection period where it's quiet. You're not doing things, but you're reflecting, you're learning, and then you're getting ready in that rest, for the next season. And I just think for ourselves, I was like, that's like, I need that for me to remember that we don't have to always be on. Like we don't always have to be, someone once told me too, it's okay to be growing while others are blooming. And I love that phrase of just, it's okay. We don't have to be blooming every day, all the time. Like it's okay for us to take those seasons where we take 2 weeks off or take the summer off of social media or whatever. Like, because we're nurturing something else. And that was what's needed in that season. And there'll be another season.
Where my kid won't want to hang out with me anymore.
Yeah.
And it's already like, I feel like there. And it would, so we live our absolute best life this summer. She's one of those like, get off your phone, mom. Like has said that to me.
Oh, so, they all do.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, like, this is what I wanted in life. So why I don't live with any regrets. Again, it's such a great perspective to be able to have. And I was able to take that time and feel good about it. And I'm so glad that I did.
Yep.
I'm so grateful we got to do this face-to-face today. It's been, too long of a knowing without meeting. So I'm so glad.
For sure. I love this. Thank you for sharing everything that you shared.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for spending this time with me.
Thank you. Big love.
Oh,
goodbye.
Right back at you. Okay.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Growing Kindness podcast. It means the world that you take the time to be here. Every time you show up, every time you listen in, community grows. If today's episode encouraged you, there are a few simple ways to keep growing kindness with us. First, you can join the team. When you become a Growing Kindness gardener, you link arms with like-minded, like-hearted people from all around the world who believe that small acts of kindness really do make a big difference. As a gardener, you'll receive access to resources, inspiration, and connection to help you grow and give flowers as acts of kindness in your corner of the world. It's free to join. Another way to get involved is to become a donor. This podcast is made possible by the generosity of our donors, kind-hearted people who believe, just like you, that stories of goodness are worth sharing. If you'd like to help us share more stories just like today's, visit growingkindnessproject.org/donate to make a gift and keep kindness blooming. We'd love to stay connected with you. You can sign up for our newsletter or find us on Instagram at Growing Kindness Project. We'd love to keep in touch and cheer you on as you grow kindness in your community. And finally, if this episode touched your heart, would you share it with a friend? It's one of the simplest ways to spread kindness today. I'm so grateful you're here. Until next time, keep growing kindness, one bloom at a time.